Well, welcome guys, thanks for checking out this video. I've run the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus now for about a month, and I've covered some other content regarding how to install the upgrade board, as well as some quick setup guides and some emulation tips. But in this video I'm going to look at, was this actually worth picking up in the first place? Now there's a fair few factors to consider, especially these days. There's a bit more competition, matching the same type of specs as the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, and that will be the POW Kitty that's recently came out, as well as the new Ambernick. Now these two devices I really want to try and get my hands on to get more of a better review. But it's all about the price point when it comes to the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, and those two kind of match it, and there's a lot more competition, but the price do shoot up. So that's one really good thing about this. Another thing to consider, if you lot already own a Retroid Pocket in the first place, was it worth picking up? So there's a fair few things we're going to cover in this video. Of course, I'm not endorsed or sponsored by them at all. I just really enjoy the product and really hope to get my hands on other devices and to review for you guys. So if you guys can just hit that like and hit that subscribe to help build this channel, that'd be awesome. So let's say you already own the Retroid Pocket 2. Is it worth purchasing the upgrade for the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, forking out the £100? But there are two options available for us to purchase. As I did state in my previous videos, you can have the upgraded board to install yourself and get the buttons and the D-pad, but I am lacking the touchscreen, or you can buy the £100 all-in version with the touchscreen as well. Now the Retroid Pocket 2 is still an awesome device, but one thing I do highly recommend is updating this to the latest firmware. This has been updated to Lineage. I've got this already and dusted for a buddy of mine. Now the original version this Retroid Pocket came with, it was a bit sloppy and a bit buggy, but of course now with this update it's a bit more stable and a bit more snappier. And it still does a great job. The couple of bugs with Lineage, especially just with the wallpaper I found, if you try to check a wallpaper it does seem to stretch all over the place. And it does come with a custom launcher, so it still does a great job. Now when it comes to the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, there are some benefits, but when it just comes to emulation, for instance, the main thing I've considered that is a benefit with this is the Sega Dreamcast does run really well. But of course a lot of people do want to try and get the PS2 and the GameCube, but they're just not there with the system yet. When it comes to N64 emulation, the Retroid Pocket can just about struggle with if you've got a lot of settings and some tweaks. But the one emulator I did find work really well is the N64 OID. This is not available at the Play Store. I'd managed to track this down, but I did find this to run games a lot smoother. But of course there's a lot more fiddling in the emulation purposes. And one big jump is the Wi-Fi itself. It has been boosted with a 5G connector. So the Wi-Fi for streaming, if you wanted to stream games like from your PC or from the Xbox, you would think it would be better, but I still had problems with the streaming service. As you can see here, the game is running perfectly on the PC, but I've got that Wi-Fi connection problem, even though the Wi-Fi is pretty stable where I live. When it came to PlayStation 5 streaming, the app was easy to install and set up, but when you got this all booted up, it couldn't even recognize the controller built in to the Retroid Pocket, or even if I Bluetooth and synced up my controller. The only way to do this was using the mouse as a touchscreen. So you may be able to get around this using the overlay control pad, but this is not really convenient. And with the Xbox, I still seem not to connect to my Xbox console and stream games. Of course, there are improvements with the PSP emulation, but it's not really 100% compatible, but there are some great games that will work on this system, unlike the original Retroid Pocket. And if you do already own a Retroid Pocket 2, you could just purchase the buttons itself and the D-pad from the store and just install it yourself to get those further benefits. Now one thing to consider with this model, comparing it to the other competition, is its form factor. This is probably one of the smaller ones, and personally, this is just my intake, is this screen ratio and the layout, as I just find it pretty fascinating, especially with the triggers. When it comes to systems like Game Gear or even the Neo Geo Pocket, the screen, it does suit it really well, keeping that 4:3 ratio. Just one big strength with the Retroid Pocket I found. Now the main thing I consider as a huge boost with this system is the battery life. Even though it's kept the same battery as the previous model, the motherboard does really consider this a huge jump of performance. So I had this on standby for about 5 days straight with no use, and it's kept about 50% battery. So I can leave this on standby for about a week, even if I'm just doing some low-end emulation. And I would say the charging is a little bit faster. Now when it comes to the competition out there, the closest thing that does resemble this, with the same type of specs, as well as that price point, which is the most important, is the POW Kitty A20. It does resemble a bit more like the analog that recently came out. Of course, I won't be able to go to more details until I get my hands on that, but that's just one thing to look out for. Another one out there is Ambernick's RG55 2, one that does really push that price up a bit further, but when you actually see the build quality as well as the screen size with a high resolution, that's another one to look out for, but you are going to be pushing out more money for that. It is also including a bit more RAM, but I can't really see that pushing a bit more emulation with the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. Another device that's again really popular is the Odeon, one I can't wait to get my hands on, and that price point is between the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus and Anbernic's RG552. Now they're the ones that I know of, there's probably even more out there, but they're the ones that are standing out at the moment of this video. So guys, I do really hope that I get my hands on the other devices like the Power Kitty and the Anbernics that do really match the same type of specs, that has some other competition like the new Odeon that does look really nice, but of course it is all about that price point. So hopefully I can get my hands on that and do a review for you guys, and if I do, I'll put that in the description box below and update this video. So as always, thanks for watching, and if you liked it, hit that button. If you want to help and support, click subscribe, leave your comments below, and I catch you lot on the next video.